Until recently, comedy writer Graham Linehan was best known as the mind behind all-time classics like Father Ted and the IT Crowd, one of my favourites, until he started speaking out about women's rights. Over the past few years, Linehan has been cancelled, shouted down, and kicked off career-defining projects, but most recently, and most appallingly of all, he was arrested at Heathrow Airport by a group of armed police officers for a series of tweets. Yes, tweets. Joining me now to discuss how he came to be the man at the centre of this insane situation is comedy writer and activist Graham Linehan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello there, lovely to be here.
Graham, you tweeted, if a trans-identified male in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act, make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls. I mean, that's pretty funny. You are a comedian after all. How did that hilarious tweet land you with 5 armed police officers arresting you?
Well, the person who is involved in the arrest is someone who has recently been ramping up complaints about gender-critical people. Sorry, I can't. By the way, I cannot stop the steam from building up in these glasses, so do forgive me. He uses he's an ex-policeman, so he uses certain techniques that he knows will get a complaint through. Like, for instance, my complaint on another matter was initially dropped and then picked up when he threatened a judicial review, and the police are terrified of judicial reviews, so they picked it up again. So, this is just one of the techniques that trans activists use. They find these kind of weaknesses in the system. In this case, the British police's tendency to think of anyone who makes a complaint as the victim. And they use that to shut up women and gender-critical people, men like me, So I was sort of expecting something like this at some point, especially when I was just about to leave the UK. I had a growing sense of unease because they seem to be ramping up the harassment. So it wasn't as big a surprise as it should have been, really. But I'm glad it happened, because the great thing about the trans movement is that they always overreach. They always do something that just reveals who they are, really. They're not this terribly vulnerable group that needs protection, but in some cases, rare, but they do need to be addressed, extremely dangerous men who the police should be looking up instead of, their victims.
100%. In this past week, it's been pretty ironic because we've seen the left in total meltdown about Jimmy Kimmel being indefinitely taken off air. But meanwhile, for years, activists, comedians like yourself who has been pushing back against the left agenda, you've been cancelled, you've been deplatformed, I'm sure you've lost work because of your stances, yet I don't hear any of these leftists who are suddenly great defenders of freedom of speech coming out to defend you. Do you see the hypocrisy in that?
Oh, yeah. And, for the left to suddenly mobilize after 10 days after Charlie Kirk was murdered, simply because he trusted people too much and he believed in dialogue too much, for them to suddenly go on the warpath about Jimmy Kimmel, who lied about the shooter on an FCC channel. I'm not excusing the Trump administration stepping in, but he did lie about the shooter on an FCC channel, and there are rules about that, But it's just ludicrous. It's ludicrous. I mean, today I feel very guilty and sad that I'm actually not in Phoenix at the moment to go to the funeral, because we were almost neighbours, Charlie Kirk and I, and I really feel terrible that I'm not going to pay my respects, because I think not only was, we would disagree on so many things, including abortion rights and other things, but my God, was he a model on how to comport yourself, on how to debate and how to speak to people. And he was shot in the neck in front of a crowd of college students, and all the left can think about is Jimmy Kimmel. It's absolutely astonishing to me.
Truly. Well, here in Australia, another thing that's astonishing is the state of gender affirming care, as the activists like to call it. So we've had one state, which is Queensland, put a pause on prescribing puberty blockers to minors. The federal government is undertaking a review, but we're not going to see any results of that until mid next year. What's your message to Australia about how we should be better protecting young people right now?
Well, you know, all the original countries that started these protocols have reversed or backtracked on that. The Dutch protocol and all these things. They no longer believe that affirmation is scientifically proven. And the reason that it's been going on so long is because the group that make up the rules for trans healthcare, what is ludicrously called trans healthcare, is a group of lunatics in an organization called WPATH. And everybody thought they were telling the truth about these procedures, and they weren't. They were just pushing an ideological line. And even more frightening of all, the website WPATH linked to a pornographic website about castration. These are the lunatics who have been putting children on a kind of disassembly line for the last 10 years. And what I find most upsetting about it is that even now we've proved to be right, even now things like the CAS report and the WPATH files have been released, you still get people like Gillian Spencer, who is losing her job as a nurse. The same way in the UK, trans activists are going after nurses like Sandy Peggy and the Darlington nurses. These are people whose job it is to know what biology is, to know what the truth of biology is. And they're all losing their jobs, you know? And I feel like it would be great if Australia rallied around Gillian and, you know, protected her from these attempts to cast her safeguarding advice as evil somehow, you know? So, yeah, protect the whistleblowers is what I'd say. They're still isolated. They're still getting fired. You know, they need you.
100%. And ultimately, just stand up for the truth. If Charlie Kirk taught us anything, it's that if you stand up for the truth and you act bravely and courageously, the impact you'll leave on the world is immense. And that's what you've done and you're continuing to do. And we salute you for that, Graham. And just know so many of us here in Australia stand with you. And we hope that you win in this fight and that all young people win and are protected from this dangerous ideology. Thank you so much, Graham.
Thank you.